So hopefully you're all here for making data-driven decisions with self-service analytics. We're part of the Tableau team. We have Don Furseth, who's a sales consultant doing the primary presentation. Mike Maxwell on my left, who runs our state and local practice nationally for Tableau. And then Blake Hughes, you raise your hand in the middle of the room there, one of our sales consultants. I think first of all, just a big thank you for spending your day here with all of these vendors. My name's Bob Krueger, account manager for Tableau, covering the state of California. I am a salesperson, but you will not hear a sales pitch from me. Our mission is really about helping government customers solve business problems with their data. The mission of our company at Tableau is to help customers see and understand their data. What does that really mean? You hear terms like big data, analytics, all these interesting terms today, and self-service analytics. But truly our one company mission is to help customers see and understand the data that they work with every day, whether you're a business analyst, whether you're a technologist, whether you're a state executive here in the state of California. We're very proud of some recognition that Gartner's given us the last few years, recognizing us as the leader in the enterprise business intelligence and analytics space. And really the primary reasons for that and using Tableau is really driven by the ease of use and very fast deployment times. So being able to get information out of your data in a way with a lot of the older traditional business intelligence and analytics tools you may have used in the past or currently just can't give you that speed of thought. Just a quick check, how many folks in the room have either used Tableau or have at least heard of it? So pretty good percentage, great. Really we're about allowing customers and users of our product to have a conversation with their data, to bring up data in a way that you can see what's going on with the data, ask new questions, get answers from your data without having to go to somebody else to get a new report written. We call it really governed data discovery, where we want the business users who use the data day to day to get access to that data and do their own analysis, but still having the information technology organization provide governance and security over that data so the right people get access to the right data to do their analysis. We're talking about interactive visualizations and dashboards, and you'll see some examples later on today that Don will bring up. And again, the goal here is to start doing your analysis in minutes and hours and not days, weeks, and months, to try to bring quick speed of thought and give you information that before you didn't think was maybe possible to get that quickly. When we're talking about government, there's the big open data revolution, self-service, measuring outcomes. Those are all things that Tableau can help make you do a little bit better in your day-to-day jobs. And I think Carlos Ramos at the beginning of his keynote today, his comments really resonate with us. As you sit here and listen to the presentation, this will be about self-service analytics, it's not about Tableau today, but it's the art of what is possible. So with that, I want to introduce Dawn Furseth. I've had the pleasure of working with Dawn at a couple companies now in the government space. She's been involved in business intelligence and analytics for about 10 years now, working with government and healthcare customers. Dawn's become a real data evangelist, helping people see and understand their data with their specific use cases that they have to get better outcomes to the data that they interact with day to day. Lastly, Dawn does, when she's not working, she enjoys paddleboarding, the wine country, and her dog, Duff. So a little personal greeting for Dawn. So with that, Dawn Furseth.
And long walks on the beach as well. That always makes me weird. Can you guys hear me okay back there as well? I'm not as tall and I don't have to bend over to the microphone like Bob does. But let's get to the agenda. So, as Bob said, this is not going to be about Tableau. We'll sprinkle a couple of things in there, but it's really about a different way to think about business intelligence in your organization and your agencies. We're going to start it off with the art of understanding data. Might be a little left brain, right brain for some of you, but I think it's a pretty interesting conversation and one that I think speaks very powerfully to where business intelligence is going and maybe should be going. I'm not going to do a whiteboard. I'm going to do a magic whiteboard on the screen, but the idea will be is what are the pains in some of the IT organizations and on the business side of getting to that data and understanding the information? And then I'll show you some real world examples that are out there right now on the internet that you can go play with after we get done here today. The crowd isn't too big today, I'm going to spread out kind of a bit. Let's try and keep this interactive. If you have questions, I might go ahead in the parking lot and say, you know what, we're going to get way off track. But let's go ahead and give it a shot if you do have things as we go through the presentation. Okay? So those are some words you probably never thought you'd see together on one slide together, right? Data analysis, creative, but it is. So people who work with data are emerging as some of the most important creative problem solvers in the modern organization. People who work with the data, who provision it, who secure it, who make it available, who analyze it, are really some of the folks that are being recognized and regarded as some of the most creative problem solvers in those organizations today. And we believe that unleashing that creative process and creative genius is the main goal of a modern business intelligence strategy. So why is that? Well, people think of data analysts as being fundamentally different from folks who are creative professionals, like artists. In fact, most people would say that data analysts and artists are completely opposite. But I think they're actually very similar. Analysts and artists are both on a mission to reveal something new, to look at things differently, to discover truth. Artists challenge us to look at the world in a completely different way. So analysis in art really require a keen sense of observation, of curiosity, and of problem solving. So it's broadly acknowledged that creative thinking is crucial to the arts. But how many people really would say that creative thinking is important to analyzing data? It's a critical part of that BI component in the platform. But I, for one, have never seen that as a requirement on an RFP. But I think it should be, right? The RFPs we see in the business requirements that come out right now are all about key performance indicators and dials and gauges. But I think that's something that fundamentally needs to change, because creativity and analytics helps make better decisions, helps ask different questions, helps with different thinking, and I think deeper and better thinking. And really, it's pretty darn important in an organization with a BI strategy. So I think we have a lot to learn about studying artists and creative professionals, the tools they use and how they use it. Because to support critical problem or creative problem solving, we really need to do 4 things with the analytics software platform. And actually, they're 4 things that the artists and their tools are already doing for us, or for them. So the first one is experimentation. We need to provide that in an analytics platform. A central element to creative problem solving is the ability to be able to sketch, do quick studies, and to experiment. Experiment with your data. So Frank Gehry, pioneering architect, goes from rough conceptual sketches to then more detailed versions, and then he goes on to handmade models, eventually on to computer renderings. But through that whole process, it's an iterative nature. It goes back and forth. Some work out, some don't. But the great innovations that finally come through would be something like the Walt Disney Concert Hall down in Los Angeles. Andrew Wyatt, the great American artist, would start in charcoal sketches, really basically notations to himself. And as some of those started to emerge as possibilities, he would move them into the next phase of charcoal drawings, a little bit more complete. Those that emerged as leaders or good ideas from there, he would move into watercolor. And then finally, as his ideas were starting to come to life in watercolor, he would move on, and that's when he would start working in oil. I love this one. So creative thinkers start out by exploring a space, throwing up some ideas, backing up, refining, redoing, until eventually honing in on the best articulation of their idea. Innovators in virtually every field say that fast prototyping is crucial to problem solving. Inventors know this more than anybody. The Wright brothers, for instance, went through a whole series of countless designs before finding one that finally worked. So imagine the impact of bringing experimentation and innovation and fast prototyping to your data strategy. What if the people in your agency were given the tools of invention? The possibilities are endless of what they would discover and find. And here's my little thing. I bring this up because Tableau is architecting software for that experimentation and rapid design and problem solving. We're creating a system that helps people experiment with their data, helps people find things much easier and uncover things, ask more questions, and have it all be an iterative process. We really want the tools that we give users to be creative tools, help them with that experimentation process and fast prototyping, and it's an essential part of our data strategy, our product strategy rather. So number 2, what we need to put into creative software process development is speed. The system needs to provide feedback to the creator immediately. Imagine if you were an artist, for instance, and you put a mark on a page, and that mark didn't show up for 10, 15 minutes. You wouldn't be able to effectively work. The third requirement then is a crucial attribute of a software system that supports this creative problem-solving process, and that's expressiveness. Brilliant artists don't use paint-by-numbers worksheets. I do. I'm not a brilliant artist, obviously. But they also don't confine themselves to the boundaries of prior expressions. They start out with a blank canvas, or a block of wood, or a piece of plastic, and they carve their ideas into that medium. It's the same when we work with data. Expressiveness is just as important. But it isn't something that enterprise software has been very good at. For how many years, for instance, has business intelligence software been dominated by templates and dialog boxes and wizards, really constraining our thought processes to a predetermined path? This next generation of business intelligence is trying to expand a user's expressiveness with data by giving you the canvas for that innovation. Users' creativity should be inspiring. It should also be an essential part of an analytics platform. Which leads me to number 4, the critical aspect of an analytics software that supports creativity. And that's giving people control. When you have an inspired idea, you have to do it yourself, just like an artist would. Something in your mind's is in your mind's eye, and you need to get it out. Jackson Pollock didn't run around telling people, splatter the paint here, splatter it like that. And Da Vinci didn't do his great work by filling out a painting request form. He was in the creative flow himself. So experimentation, speed, expressiveness, and control. Those are the crucial design requirements for a 21st century business intelligence system, and it's one that we're building right now, as well as others. The mission is about serving brilliant people and about building brilliant agencies. Let's take a little look farther into that. So Bob alluded to the Gartner report. It's out there. This is from the February 2015 report. The report regarding business intelligence was really around for the traditional BI approach. 30 some odd years, the SAPs and the SASs and everything else in the world. There's a different way to do it these days. And more and more, not only organizations and agencies themselves, the analysts are seeing it, the users are clamoring for empowerment. Let me get to the data myself, I know it, help me do that. So this is just one of the quotes about how there's a new way forward. I won't read that to you, obviously you can do that. Now, it's time for the eye chart. Everybody in back, you get to read this for me. Go. I apologize because I didn't realize the room was going to be so big. But what this is going to do for us is it's going to help talk through my whiteboard. This is really about an organization, traditional organizations, agencies that have a business intelligence strategy of some shape or form. I'm sure or not sure, it doesn't make any difference to me. Some things up in the upper left-hand corner for you there are just some trends. 87% of the viewed IT and data as critical in the decision-making process, but really only 13%, this is coming from IT, they say that only 13% of an organization and the users has access to the data they need. Numbers can vary and your mileage may vary as well, but that's the idea behind that. So the whole goal is to improve the strategic alignment between IT and business, get that data out there faster, help empower the business users to make those data-driven decisions in a timely fashion, not request a report, wait 2 months, and then have a change to the report and back it goes again. And balancing the flexibility of that process with the governance, security, everything that we need to do from that perspective. So traditionally, we have the operational reporting, which is stable, scalable, secured, on the left-hand side, all the way over to the other side of the trend line with ad hoc, which empowers the business users to do more self-service, but it also starts to get a little squirrely by turning data loose to people in an ungoverned fashion. So we'll throw up business and IT with analytics in the middle. Traditionally, again, not all agencies and organizations are this way. I've got to stay close to my mic, sorry. IT is taking care of the data. Make sure it's provisioned, make sure it's secured, make sure it's modeled effectively, make sure it's all pulled together in a fashion that needs to be presented to our users for their end goals. We put this enterprise BI platform in the middle of it. So it helps to translate the data and make it more usable for our business users. And then reports come out magically from that enterprise BI platform, hopefully driven by IT. Sends them up to the business. We put in applications in there as well. But what happens, tell me if any of you feel this pain, that when you request new reports as an end user, they kind of go into a black hole somewhere. And then you have some changes that you need to get those reports updated for, and it just becomes this funnel and bottleneck in the process. So the idea here is to go ahead and start empowering the business users, still with the governance and security and everything that IT is doing with the data layer, but give them the tools that make it easy for them to answer their own questions, ask their own questions. It becomes an iterative process, almost like an agile development cycle, right? Where they ask a question, they get an answer, they have a new question, that's fine. They just keep working with the product and the tool, and everything is more stable, more self-service. And that's the nature of them working together. Make sense? Now we go back to bigger type. I like this better. Another little quote from Gartner that I pulled out of the report, just talking about supporting that process that I was just speaking to, making it more accessible to a broader range of users to help them make the transition to a more agile organization. So why is this important? Again, a bit of an eye chart for the folks in the back. There are seats in the front if you'd like. But the idea is basic crosstab. Probably all familiar with these. But if I ask you to pull up, and this is in product and category and subcategories, and then by states is on the left. And if I asked you if you could find the 3 most profitable and the 3 most unprofitable subcategories, could you do that? It'd probably take some time, and I'm even missing some states down on the bottom because my screenshot was too small. But now, when I layer color on top of that, that becomes easier to understand. Our minds and our brains analyze information and figure it out with pictures, with visuals. Much harder with words and with numbers. So that's again part of that self-service, make it easy for our users to discover information faster. So getting into a couple of our examples from, again, every one of these that I'm going to show you right now is on a public-facing website from different agencies that we have worked with and gotten a hold of some of their work. But you can certainly go out on the internet and find those yourselves. This one happens to be shipment trends. This is just an internal example, but it's up on our website. But the idea here is you can look very quickly what's on time, what's shipped late, and what's shipped early. I don't have to come through 5 pages of a report and find one particular number that I'm looking at and then think, oh geez, what was that number on page 1? Let me go back and look at that. So the goal is to make it incredibly easy. Now these are static images in the PowerPoint, and you might not be able to see it, but up here on the right-hand side, we've got some numbers and things in the middle. But it also lets the user be interactive with this dashboard of information. So let me find the year I'm looking at, maybe a particular region or quantities or you get the idea there. Let it be interactive, and again, they're not designing and going to the work of designing the dashboard, but it's going to be interactive and interesting for me as a person using that. I debated on showing this one. It's the Portland City Budget Office, and they're using data visualization to show their citizens where gang activity is in relation to schools. And this is on their website. So in this case, what they're allowing you to do down to that bottom left-hand corner is to go ahead and select, and it's by shape, and I'm not sure if you can detect, but the community centers are little squares, schools are circles, and the gang activity cluster is in a diamond pattern. So you can very quickly see if you're thinking about moving into Portland, maybe I don't want to live in particular areas, even though the schools might be good. But again, it's that data, open data initiative that so many agencies and governments are going through. Some of this is manifesting itself now on some of these websites. This one is going to be really hard to read, but it's a Million Hearts project. I don't know if any of you have heard that. But they're working towards eradicating, or at least reducing, illnesses and deaths of death and stroke, heart disease and strokes. So this map is actually showing some clinical quality measure performance ratios against their clinical targets of 70%. And again, there's a whole bunch of other filters and interactivity that I could do with this. There's several other, I could look by state or by year, by particular disease or type, and work through that. Florida Department of Juvenile Justice is showing how many intakes they had. There's a lot of stuff with kids in here. And again, by type, by area, by county, again, all user interactivity, but very easy to see statewide where those arrests are. And these are by counties that chopped off on the bottom. Arizona Department of Child Safety is reporting on how effective their call process is when a call comes into their center of a potential abused or neglected child. They're taking that data and making it apparent and clear again back to the citizens of how quickly those calls are resolved by county, number of days it takes to resolve, all sorts of, again, data transparency with this example from Arizona. And lastly, this is from the Department of Corrections in Colorado. Happens to be the inmate population, but I can look at particular locations like state prisons or inmate total or fugitives and things like that. So lots of great information and hopefully making it much easier for people inside the agency as well as external with the public to see and understand their data.
So, as you kind of think about the art of what is possible, we really, at Tableau and other vendors, similar vendors in the space, I think what we really want to open up the idea of is self-service analytics is for everyone. We want to try to empower as many people in an organization to be able to use the technology where you can work with and interact with the data that you really understand the best. It's the thought process of an organization, a larger organization here at the state of California, an organization like Caltrans with 20,000 plus employees, where you don't have those 20 or 50 data experts. You're always going to have those knowledge and power users across the organization. But the idea is that you can empower them to use the technology for the masses, that almost any worker, if someone can use a product like Excel, they can use a self-service product like this by going out and maybe spending an hour or two looking at some online training videos and getting started with a product. The idea too is to make it fun. What better way for people that are sitting in their job on a day-to-day basis that want to have something that they enjoy doing, that they're creating, that again, they're becoming a much more self-service, self-sufficient organization. I've got 2 kids, got one in college, got one just out of college and a new job. And I kind of challenged them, and when I started working here with this company, my younger one's a big sports fan. I said, you know, let me show you something. I got my fantasy football draft coming up this week. I said, usually I peruse these online documents or all these magazines to get my fantasy football information. What if you could see it like this? What if you could start filtering on these different variables that matter in our fantasy football league very quickly, and based on these different criteria, might help my draft process. He's like, wow. I couldn't equate it to some project he had at college at first, but at least I got him interested in what a product like this could do. My older son started his first real job about 9 months ago, moved out of state, and I said, you know, take a look at what you can do with self-service analytics and some of the new technologies. Obviously, things like Excel are they're great tools to use, but there's ways to extend basic functionality of tools like that with new business intelligence and analytics technologies. So we're very excited, you know, here as an organization and working with all of you in this room. There's a lot of opportunity and initiative now across the country for governments to become transparent, to capitalize on open data, and to increase citizen collaboration and transparency. And I would argue there's also a lot of pressure now on government organizations to become much more collaborative and transparent across departments. And that's always been a challenge, and I realize there's data access challenges and limitations on that. But again, I think if you sit here and think about the art of what is possible, you know, 5-10 years ago, were we seeing these positions of chief data officers coming up? Were we seeing bills coming up about open data and transparency in government? I would argue no. And in my prior lives working for other technology companies, those initiatives did not exist. But those are becoming the norm now, and especially here as we work in the big data hub, arguably, of the world here in California and here in Sacramento. Think about those things and what's possible. We showed examples, obviously, of public-facing information. There are a ton of internal use cases that I'm sure you all can think of where this type of technology could be applicable. Having the ability to make evidence and fact-based decisions that impact policy and legislative actions. We have folks using these types of products, again, from analysts to executives across all types of organizations. And really, at the end of the day, you want to be able to make decisions with data that are going to improve outcomes as a result of data-driven and fact-based decisions. So, again, I just challenge all of you to, as you kind of think about this presentation, the art of what is possible, think about your everyday, work situation, and could these types of technologies be applicable to your day-to-day roles? If you're interested, obviously, stop by and visit us later on today or over happy hour with all the other vendors that are there and a great bunch of technology solutions. If you want to go to our website, there's a bunch of information. You can learn about these products, best practice white papers, not just about Tableau, but about the industry. And if you want to try something like this, you can go online to our website and download a free trial version in 3 minutes and spend 2 weeks playing with your data in a product like this. That's how I got started. So very interesting. We want to open it up to Q&A. I'm sure there's some questions. We got about 12, 13 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, please speak up, raise your hand, and I'd love to hear from you. Back in the room.
So one of the challenges that we face in our department is to bring the data from charts to infographics. And right now, it's easier to look at an infographic than to look at a bar chart or a line chart. Is there the capabilities with this product to bring in icons or avatars or stuff like that to then report in an infographic way?
Everybody's looking at me. Yes, and I'll specifically talk about Tableau to answer that question rather than speaking for other vendors that might be doing that. Yes, there are. It would be something that I'd want to sit down and talk a little bit more to make sure I'm understanding exactly what you're trying to envision. But yeah, that's one of the things about this software that is so powerful because it is so flexible. You'll see, if you look at the software, if you've gone onto our website or downloaded it or anything, there's a handful of charts that you'll see available, but those are not the limitation. That's what we do with best practices of how to visualize the data. There's a website that it's the largest implementation of Tableau actually. It's called Tableau Public. It's used as a free forum for anybody to go use Tableau and share their visualizations with the world on the internet. And some of the things that people out there are doing are incredibly creative and powerful. I'd encourage you to take a look at that and then certainly stop by and ask us more questions. That answer it?
Yeah.
Anything else? Well, don't be shy, people.
Yes.
Does this offer, like, if you have a public-facing website, all right, so I saw that you shared graphs on public-facing websites. Does this offer the public the ability to actually take, like, non-PHI aggregated level data and play with it to generate their own graphs on a website?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, all of those are live. Because we were constrained for our presentation today, I couldn't get out to the internet to show you the interactivity. But absolutely, if you want, I can show you some of those later.
If I could add to that too, because you mentioned PHI, and obviously, quite a fair number of people that are helping for human service arenas that have HIPAA and other kinds of personal privacy protection requirements. And Tableau has a server component that actually has a very rich set of enterprise level security permissions, so that from an IT administration perspective, you really have a lot of flexibility in terms of which audiences you want to expose which depth of the data and the visualization and analytics to. So you may develop a visualization that at an underlying level goes all the way down to some personal health case history information about individuals, and that may be necessary in terms of some of the internal collaboration that may happen within let's say your health department agency. But you also may want to use that same data, perhaps even that same visual on a public-facing website as an external device to communicate to the public about that particular modality. And Tableau has a very good set of capabilities to allow you to limit the depth to which someone from maybe an external facing perspective can see and get to those deeper levels of data, while still allowing people within the organization that have been granted the rights to do that to have their level of access. So we really build that tool to speak to a variety of different audiences with those visualizations, but particularly we're talking about protected health information. There's some really nice things we do to protect that, still have a tool that's very flexible and very efficient.
Who's number 3? Third question. I think, again, sometimes if you have a chance to go out and look at some websites, do some Google searches of what's out there, it might start you getting your creative minds going to think about possibly a different way to work with your data, where you're looking to blend multiple data sets from different sources. If you could bring them into one repository to do this kind of self-service analytics. I think that's kind of how I got started when I was talking to Tableau about a job, and towards the end of the process they said, well, at the end you got to do a demo. And I'm like, I'm a sales guy. I don't do demos. So I said to my wife, I'm a little worried about the last part of this process. So I went out I'd worked with San Francisco Police Department before on a prior job, and they've got some great open data sets out there. So I pulled in some CSV files and started playing with the data, and I don't know, I'm kind of slow. So it was like 4 hours later that night, I'm like, honey, come check this out for my demo. And she's like, oh God. So it was really neat because we're still together. But really in about a 30-minute presentation, I was able to tell a story with SF crime data, and being able to pull up on a map and look at areas of the city, and yeah, on a Friday night, no kidding, the Tenderloins probably got a little bit of drug activity, and then another part of the city on certain times of the year, you saw an arrest in aggravated assaults, and it's not really pretty data to look at sometimes, but it was very interesting and intriguing to me that I could very comfortably tell a story with the data that brought in, a visual component along with the crosstab and numerical information that you see there. The other part of the Tableau is you can drill down into the data to get to the original data source and see the components that are making up that visualization. So just because you saw a lot of graphical representations, you can get back down to the core data source to get down to the line level detail, the data that's coming from a transactional data system, Excel spreadsheet, Access database, data warehouse. So, anything else? I want to recognize one more person on our team that works with our alliance partners, Helen Zhang. She is here today as well. So again, we'll be around up here for a few minutes before the next presentation. We'll be over back at our booth and around at happy hour. So the good news is that we were not the last thing between happy hour and you. There's one more presentation. We were after lunch, but thanks for paying attention. Thank you very much.